A few days ago, I had the crazy idea to try the worst rated drawing apps in the App Store, but I have to leave a 5-star review on them all. When I opened the App Store, I found out very quickly that you can't search by lowest reviews. They're trying to hide something, I think. So I went to the apps with the least reviews instead, because an app with a 1 5-star rating is as trustworthy as one with 10 1-stars. The first app I tried was called Easy Drawing Art. I genuinely thought that I was going to get a virus from this because there's absolutely no information about the app except a slightly sketchy description that is clearly just translated from Chinese because the developer's name is in Chinese and their terms of service are in Chinese. So naturally I opened up the terms of service, right, to see like, okay, am I gonna get scammed? Am I about to get my iPad that I just bought like a couple months ago completely ruined? And lo and behold, it didn't translate. So you know what I did? I said, alright, I know if anyone's got me, it's you guys, so I'm just gonna go for it and hope for the best. And that's what I did. And you'll be pleased to know that my iPad is currently still working, hence the rest of this video being able to be made. So, it was a gamble worth taking, I hope. Once I opened the app, everything went fairly smoothly, honestly. I got to move things around for a while. Eventually the moving tool stopped working, but the sketch was pretty fun. I liked their pencil brush. They had, I think, 6 different options for brushes. I don't typically use the glow brush in any program, so I stuck to the pencil and the claw and the pen. But quickly, something that I found out about this app that absolutely blessed my whole entire life, and I don't think you can go any second longer without knowing about it, is this thing called chartlets. There was 4 of them, and I genuinely lost my mind. I was in shock. You can see my hands shaking in this clip. I had no clue what they were, but I think they're my favorite things ever now. I love them. So I went, and one of the chartlets happened to be Brian from Family Guy. I absolutely love the selection of chartlets that they had, and I had to put one in my drawing, so I put this guy with his little laptop in his bathtub. Poor dude, I don't know what's going on, but I thought it was pretty funny to have in the context of a cutesy drawing of my character Naomi. So that's what's in there, and he absolutely is staying in there. What a king. When I went back to coloring, the colors were fairly limited on this program, but I quickly would find out that this is the most amount of colors that I would have access to this whole video. So I ran with it, and I went on and finished this Naomi drawing. I think the main difficulty with the colors isn't that the number of colors was limited, because it was a slider, which is a fairly common way to get colors. It's that they didn't have an option on the slider where you could change the value, so I was limited to the same value in all the colors, so I kind of had to use a little bit of color theory trickery to get it to work for me. I think it worked out pretty well. I really do like how this drawing turned out. It's quite cute. Definitely not the same quality as if I had it on like Procreate or something, but for an app with 1 layer and just like a couple little tools and chartlets, don't forget about the chartlets, I think that this one is pretty solid. So now with all that in mind, I think I have what I need to go and write my 5-star review. Wow, the chartlets changed my life. I love it. The next app was called First Drawing, and there was one real review by a mom who said that it was good for her kids. So hopefully that means I can draw on it too. I personally love the photos that are in the review images. There's just some really cute kid drawings, and then a cat. I love that cat. When I first opened the app, it made me have access for all my photos and such, which is fairly normal, so who knows if they're out there on some black market or not. There was crayons for a decent amount of colors. However, you needed parental control to access the crayons. And that parental control was a math problem of addition, which I may or may not have had to do with my fingers. But regardless of that, it made me pay money to access the different crayon
Unless
colors.
someone wants to donate $1 or so to me, I am not paying to do a review of the other crayon colors. I can use my primaries just fine. Although they weren't really completely primary colors. We did have red, blue, and yellow, but they were kind of neon. So I stuck with the colors that fit Naomi best, and I just tried very hard to match the values and such as well as I could with the 10 that were provided. Overall, I think that this drawing app was fairly easy to draw on. However, there seemed to be some sort of invisible borders in the gutters of the drawing. I don't really know what that was about. That wasn't an iPad issue for sure, so they might have just not coded something correctly. But regardless, I'm gonna have to do a bit of thinking to get my 5-star review because I personally do not support zygotes having to pay money to unlock all the colors of the crayons that exist in the Notes app already. 5 stars. Nice! Easy UI for my pea-brain to understand. The next app was called Draw Free for iPad, best app to draw. I'm not quite sure about that because there was only 2 colors, but this app seems to be based off of drawing a chalkboard in iPad format. So when you first open it up, you're on the dark mode, which is the black chalkboard rather than the green one, and you're given 2 color options, which are blue and yellow, but if you switch over, they become black and white. Pretty much, there's no pen variation at all. It's literally just the 2 colors and an eraser tool. So I did my best with what I could. The pen seemed a little bit odd. The pressure wasn't pressure sensitive, but it sometimes did act up a little bit with the Apple Pencils, so there was that. And then they also had advertisements, of course, at the bottom, because how would they have an app without ads, you know? Unfortunately, I couldn't find this app again in the App Store to write a review, so just pretend I wrote a 5-star review for it. The next app was a little bit humbling. It was Quick Draw 30-second Sketch. I thought, oh, I am about to eat this up because I play Roblox speed draw all the time. By the way, if you haven't already, add me on Roblox. I am Art.ificer and I play speed draw all the time. But this app was pretty much having me do a 30-second drawing challenge. I was like, oh, okay, I got this. But I did have to recreate the image as per the challenge. So when I got to that, I kind of flopped and, well, the results speak for itself. That isn't really the drawing's fault, or the drawing program's fault though, because they did have a good selection of colors. They pretty much had whatever you have available in the Notes app. So, the only issue was that you did have to draw on top of the numbers instead of to the side or of them going away, so that was a little bit tricky to see. 5 stars. Humbling. I need to have a training montage to be able to use this program fully. 10 out of 10. The last program for today is Drawing and Illustration. This one had a very interesting UI. I like the orange borders. It reminded me a lot of those old programs that we would use in like 2010, 2011 in elementary school, where pretty much like they had a couple colors on the sidebar and then like 2 or 3 tools and just like a cute little border. I did very much enjoy drawing in this, although I did forget when I'm in split screen that the canvas does get smaller, and I was like, wow, why is the canvas so small? But I never bothered to go out of split screen, so that was completely on me. Anyways, the color palette was very nice. However, again, like with some of the other programs we've encountered, it was surprisingly limited too. They didn't have colors that would add different values, and they didn't have all of the primaries either, which surprised me. It seemed like they kind of went on one of those aesthetic color palette generators for kids or something, and didn't account for the fact that you do need your primary colors and then black and white, but we made it work. I think for this drawing, the main focus was I tried to add as many different colors as I could because I remembered that I have free will, and also because since I hadn't had access to many colors for the rest of this video, I kind of just got to go crazy for a bit. I decided to not color in Naomi's actual skin tone because she is quite pale, and I think that if I used any other colors on here, it would end up looking a little odd, so I just ended up doing the pink blush, and it looked a little bit like Nyan Neko Sugar Girls in the end, but it mostly worked out. 5 stars. Colors! The layout was so nostalgic and simple, and the color palette was pretty interesting.